Hello and welcome to this video on Bodhicaryavatara, chapter 7, verse 6. As usual, I will read the verse slowly to you twice and then we will analyze it. Let me first share the text with the verse. There we are. Yemenudvikshyamanasya baddhamargasya sarvatah katante rochite bhoktum katang nidra katang ratihe. And again, Yemenudvikshyamanasya baddhamargasya sarvatah katante rochite bhoktum katang nidra katang ratihe. So we'll start actually with the second line. Katam means how. Sorry, let me share my iPad screen with you. There we are. Now, the root ruch, the original meaning of the basic meaning of the root ruch is to shine or give out light, and it's actually cognate with the Latin word lux, meaning light. Ruch is an atmanepada verb, and it makes its present tense to be pleasing, so to shine, and then by extension to be pleasing. So ruchate, it is pleasing, and is followed by the genitive or the dative, so to be pleasing to somebody. He likes it. In Sanskrit, you could say tasya ruchate, tasya being the genitive of him. Also, you can also have the dative, tasmai. Tasya rochate, tasmai rochate. It is pleasing to him. Katante rochate, how is it pleasing to you? Means how can you possibly enjoy? Katante rochate. We look at this word te. Katante rochate. How is it pleasing to you? Te is used only as an enclitic, that's it tacked on to the end of a word. Katante rochate. It can't stand at the beginning of a word group or at the beginning of a sentence. If you wanted to say, it is pleasing to you, bhoktam is to eat, it is pleasing to you to eat, you like eating, you couldn't say te rochate bhoktam, te can't stand at the beginning of a word group. So you'd have to use the dative, which is singular, tubhyam, or the genitive, tava. Tava rochate bhoktam, you enjoy eating, or tubhyam rochate bhoktam. The te is an abbreviated form, both for tubhyam and tava, both for the dative and the genitive, that you can stick onto the end of the word. So you could say katam tubhyam rochate, or you can also say katante rochate. So how to thee pleases it, katante rochate. Bhoktum, it's from the root bhuj, meaning to, basic meaning is to enjoy, but also to eat. And as we've seen with other roots ending in a j, when it's joined to a suffix beginning with a t, the j becomes a k. and it takes guna as well. So to eat is bhoktum. Bhoktum. So how is it pleasing to you? That's the infinitive form. How is it pleasing to you to eat? Katante rochate bhoktum. And the last pada, quarter verse, katan nidra katam rati. That's just a shortened form of saying katante rochate nidra, katante rochati rati. Katante rochate bhoktum, katan nidra, katan rati. In English we could say, how can you enjoy eating? And then how sleeping, meaning how can you enjoy sleeping? You don't have to repeat the words. So katan nidra. Nidra. It's from the root dra, and then nidra, falling into sleep. Dra, sleep. It's actually cognate with our English word drowsy, and with the Latin root dorm, to sleep, within a dormitory, dormant. And in Russian we have dremat, meaning to dream. Actually, also with our word to dream, the dremat, to drowse off or to sleep in Russian. So nidra, rati, is taking pleasure in something. It's from the ram. The M drops out and we get the verbal noun rati. The nominative form, the stem form, is just rati. It means taking pleasure in something. In this kind of context, how can you enjoy sleeping? How can you enjoy rati? On its own like this, and depending on context, it tends to mean romantic delight and sexual delight. And it can be used for any kind of delight. You can have, monks who take rati in listening to the Dharma. It's just the context will tell you which one it means. So katante rochate bhoktum, how to thee pleases to eat. Katante rochate bhoktum, katan nidra, how can you enjoy sleeping? Katan rati, how romantic delight, how you take pleasure in it. Now look at the second word. I'll bring you back to hope it'll come up. Yeah. The second word in that line, te, is in the genitive. I've marked it as a 4 there in the dative, but I'm going to change that to the genitive. The reason I'm going to change it to the genitive, which is the 6th case, if that's what I've highlighted here, masculine, feminine, neuter, because te, or the first and second person pronouns, I, me, we, us, and the second person pronouns you, they don't change for gender in Sanskrit, and the same applies to Pali. That's why it's written as MFM. It could be masculine, feminine, or neuter. The reason I've changed if you looked at katante rochate bhoktum on its own, you say te. Okay, te is either a dative or a genitive there. As I mentioned on the previous page of my notes, let me just go back to the notes. Tubhyam, I'm highlighting there, tubhyam, dative, tava, genitive. Both of them can be shortened to te as an enclitic. Rochate can take the dative or the genitive. You say tubhyam rochate or tava rochate. So if you say katam te rochate, you don't know, and it doesn't particularly matter whether the writer had in mind that it was the shortened form of the dative or the shortened form of the genitive. But if we look back to the first line, the entire thing is in the genitive. Yemenu vikshamanasya, Bodhicaryavatara. These are genitives. Why are they in the genitive? Because they are in apposition to te. By apposition, what I mean is a descriptive noun or phrase added in parenthetically to amplify or further describe the particular noun. So katante rochate, how can it be pleasing to you? How can it be pleasing to you who are being looked up and down, or who are being sized up by yama? So the who are being sized up by yama is a separate clause, but in English we could put it, how can it be pleasing to you being looked up and down by yama? So that's in apposition. And so it goes in the same case as the noun in question. So katam te rochate, te is in the genitive, and te yamenu vikshamanasya, being looked up and down by yama. That also has to be the genitive. So to take an example, we might say Napoleon, Emperor of France. You could say Napoleon, who was Emperor of France, but if we just say Napoleon, Emperor of France, those are in apposition to each other. Emperor of France is a noun or noun phrase tacked on to the end of the noun, just to further amplify. And so, for example, if we talk about the armies of Napoleon, Emperor of France, the armies of Napoleon would have to go in the genitive, and Emperor of France would also go in the genitive because it's in apposition to Napoleon. So here, so we might say an attempt was made by Napoleon, Emperor of France. An attempt was made by Napoleon. Okay, so that would go in the instrumental. And equally, Emperor of France would also have to go in the instrumental as being in apposition. That is why in the first pada, yemenu vikshamanasya is a compound adjective, and it's in the genitive to agree with the genitive te in the second line, the first pada of the second line. So that explains why it's in the genitive, and it also explains why Bodhicaryavatara is also in the genitive to agree with te. They're both phrases in apposition to te. Now, yemenu vikshamanasya. Yama, the Lord of Death, and yamena instrumental, yamena. Udvikshamanasya. Okay. The root iksh means to look. And for the Pali students, we have, by the way, for Sanskrit, upa iksha. You can make a verbal noun by iksha, looking. Upa iksha becomes by sandhi. Upeksha. Upa, the a followed by e becomes an e. Upeksha means looking over something, literally, looking over the top of it, or looking past it or round it. And it's the part from which we get the Pali word upekka, which means equanimity, or often translated as equanimity. It more strictly means the ability to look past things. If something isn't up in your face, you can make it small and look round it. That's upekka, upeksha. So iksh. So vi iksh means something like to ponder or consider. It's got the prefix, the verbal prefix vi, which mostly has something of a meaning of apart or splitting or away, and also means penetrating into, as in pashyana, seeing, vipashyana, and in Pali vipassana, seeing into something. So viksh, looking into something, it means pondering or considering. And the vi iksh by Santi, of course, becomes viksh, the e plus e, viksh. Now, if you can put another prefix in front of that, that's the prefix ut. That becomes ud before a voiced consonant, so udviksh. And that has more the meaning of the extended meaning of like size, looking into it, but up looking at, kind of considering it, sizing it up, like looking at something, deciding how to go about it. That's udviksh, being sized up, looked up and down. And you can make a passive participle from that, being looked up and down. It becomes ud. Make a passive participle, udvikshya, passive stem, udvikshyamana, being looked up and down. And by the way, the suffix mana, the n there becomes retroflex because of the sh there. See, it has an effect on later on in the word, provided there's nothing to block it. So udvikshyamana, being looked up and down. Yamena udvikshyamana, and then by Santi, yamen udvikshyamana, being looked up and down by yama. And now in the genitive, to agree with te in the second line, yamen udvikshyamana. Now, Bodhicaryavatara. This is from the root band, which is directly cognate with our English word bind. And I won't bore you with details of the grammar at this stage. It makes its past participle, it drops the n, and it becomes baddha. So baddha means bound, as in tied up, but it also means blocked. If your road is bound, your road is blocked. So baddha marga. My Margo is baddho, my marga is baddha, my way is blocked. Now, baddha marga, if you make a compound, baddha marga, literally bound road, marga is road or way or path. Baddha marga is a compound adjective, and it's a possessive adjective, a possessive compound, and it's a bahuri. So baddha marga, bound road, means one whose way is blocked. And it's genitive baddha margasya in apposition to te, the same as yamen udvikshyamana. So, and sarvata, sarva meaning all, and this suffix ta often has an adverbializing force to it, sarvata, all le, so on all sides, all round, totally. So here, you whose way is blocked all round, meaning there's no escape from you, for you. So baddha margasya sarvata, means of you, that's the te, whose way is blocked all around. So I'll read this verse again, Yemenudvikshyamanasya buddhamargasya sarvatah katan te rochate bhuktum katan nidra katan rati. So te, for you, or te katan te rochate, how to you can it be pleasing? Katan te rochate. Katan te rochate bhuktum, how can it be pleasing for you to eat? Katan te rochate nidra, how can it be pleasing for you to sleep? Katante rochate rati, how can it be pleasing for you to indulge in rati, to indulge in romantic delight? So katante rochate bhuktum katandidra katanrati. Yemenudvikshimarnasya, genitive in apposition to the te, who are being looked up and down by yama. Badhamargasya sarvata, you who are blocked roaded, or you whose road is blocked, sarvata, on all sides. So I'll read it now just once more slowly, and then we'll conclude this video. Yemenudvikshamanasya baddhamargasya sarvata katante rochate bhuktum katan nidra katan rati. And that concludes this video.